Welcome to the tutorial on how to easily create a fully functional navbar. In this video you will learn how to work with containers, create your own components and use the settings panel to add logic. Let's start with creating a header. Draw a container. Set its width to 100% to fit the width of the screen. And the height to 48 pixels. To align it to the top left, set the top and left as 0. Rename the container as header. Draw a rectangle inside of the header. This is to give a background color to the header area. Drag the rectangle inside the container. Now change the position from absolute to relative. Set its width to 100% to fit the width of the container and the height to 100% to fit the height of the container. Next, let's choose a background color for your header. To add a logo, you can select the image 2 and draw inside the header. Paste the image address of the logo to the image source in the settings panel. Set the left and top constraints to 0 to align the logo to the top left. Use the Pluxbox icon component to add icons. In Properties, give notification as the name and you can see the icon automatically appear. Now change the color to white. Below the header, let's draw another container. This is going to be our navigation bar. Rename the container as navbar. Set its width as 100% to fit the width of the screen. And the height to 58 pixels. Set the top constraint to 49 and the left to 0 to align the navbar below the header. Set the layout alignment to the center. This allows us to align all the elements that we add inside this container to stay in the center. Also, let's set 16 as the horizontal space between the elements that we are going to add inside container. Let's create the tabs inside the navbar. For that, draw a rectangle. Set the width to 128 pixels and the height to 38 pixels, also set the position top to 100 and left to 0. This rectangle is going to be the background. We are now going to add a text for the tab on top of this container. Setting its position at the top to 100 and left to 0, the same as the rectangle. Also set the width to 128 pixels and height to 38 pixels to align the text perfectly on top. Double-click to write the text you want as the first tab inside your navbar. Inside the settings, align the text to the center and change the font family to semi-bold. Select the rectangle and the text together and click on the Create a User Component tool. Inside the pop-up, give a name to the component. You can see that the component is created. Drag it inside the bar container. Change its position to relative and follow the styling of the navbar. Now let's rename the first tab to New Story. Double-click on the component to go inside. Put the rectangle on top of the text, so that the text is visible. We need a setting logic block here. This is to add functionality to the settings panel of the component. Inside the block, rename the title. I'm naming it text. Select the text element and connect the block to the value setting. This makes our component dynamic. Now we can change the text of each tab from the settings. Let's go back to the home page. Click on the component. It's empty now. Go to the settings panel. You can see a new custom setting text. Add here New Story. It will automatically appear on the tab. Now duplicate the component by copy-pasting it. Change the text to Rundown. Also rename the corresponding component. Repeat these steps to add the tabs you wish. Duplicate the component. Change the text value and then rename the component. I have added 5 tabs following the same steps. You can add as many as you want. In order to change the background color, go inside the component, select the rectangle and change the color in the settings as shown. Now we want to manually add a click event to this component. For that, let's go inside the component. Duplicate the first rectangle and to ensure that it fits to the 4 sides, use the position constraints and set each side to 0. Change its color opacity to 0%. Rename it to Interaction. This element is just to add the interaction, it has nothing to do with the design. Let's also change its cursor from default to pointer. Add a click event to the interaction. Now insert a send event bluvk. Connect it with the click event. And rename the title to click. Let's go back to the home page. You can see there is a click event added to the component along with the scroll event. Let's click on the preview button. You can see the pointer is appearing while clicking, so now we need to create views to load while clicking on each tab. For that, click on the Add button near the view. Name it New Story, double-click on it to go inside the view. Here you can design the UI that you want to load while the user clicks on the new story. I'm adding only a text, chose a text alignment and the size. Duplicate the views by right-clicking and selecting Duplicate. Prompt to add the name to the new view appear, enter a rundown and click OK. This will create a new view. Inside, change the text from New Story to Rundown. Repeat these steps to create all the other views. Click on the home page. Here we need to add a main frame to load all those views we created. Watch our tutorial how to dynamically load views using frames to understand more. Rename it Main Frame. Now we need to add click events to the components. Let's start with the New Story component. Connect the click event to the execute attribute of the set route. Click on the route attribute and a pop-up will appear. Set the view as the home page and the main frame as the new story. This is to load the new story view inside the main frame on the home page when the component is clicked. Now repeat the same steps with the other components. Start by adding click event to each one of them. Duplicate the set route logic block, connect the click event to the execute attribute of the block and set the view to homepage. And the main frame to the corresponding page, rundown, WhatsApp, phone, etc. After completing the steps for all components, let's go inside the component view. Let's add another custom setting to the component. For that, insert a setting logic block. Copy the setting block. We need two settings for the component. Now change the title of the first setting block to URL ID. And the title of the second one page ID. We need to check if the URL ID matches the page ID. For that, insert a conditional block. Now connect the output of the URL ID setting to the left attribute of the conditional block. And the output of the page ID to the right attribute of the conditional block. If the condition is true, we need our text and background to be in a specific color. For that, insert two color blocks. Set the color to pink on the first color block, and white on the second color block. Now let's connect the output of the conditional block to the input of the two color blocks. Select the rectangle on the layer and connect the background color attribute to the output of the first color block. Next, select the text on the layer and connect the text color to the output of the second color block. To control the data flow, let's add a buffer block here. Connect the output of the setting block URL ID to the attribute of the buffer block, turn off the flush. Also connect the output of the setting block page ID to the value attribute of the buffer block. Connect the result of the buffer block to the right attribute of the conditional block. Now we also have to specify what color has to be set when the condition is not met. For that, insert a flip block. We now need two color blocks. You can copy and paste the blocks. Connect the result of the conditional block with the input of the flip block and the result of the flip block to both color blocks. Change the color of the first block to white and the other one to black. Connect the result of the first color block to the background color block of the rectangle. Connect the result of the second color block to the text color block. Now we have to set the URL ID and the page ID to the components. For that, navigate to the home page. Click on the New Story component. In Setting, you can see the two new custom values that we added, URL ID and page ID. You have to select each component and give the name of the corresponding view that you want to load as the page ID. Repeat the steps for all the components. Now we need to set the URL ID. For that, add a URL change event to the view layer and insert a getData block. This block is to fetch the data in the corresponding view when the URL ID is changed. Connect the event to the input of the block. Have to add a query parameter as path for that. Navigate to preview. Choose a tab and proceed to copy-paste the URL part between the question mark and equal sign, the query parameter. Paste it inside the path attribute. Lastly, we are going to set our URL ID dynamically using this getData block. Select the component and connect its URL ID to the output of the getData block. Repeat the steps for all the components. This dynamically loads the value of the URL ID in the setting block inside the component. We have successfully built our logic. Let's click on the preview button. Awesome! The navigation bar is fully functional. When you are clicking on the tabs, you can see it's active and the corresponding view is loading. Thanks for watching.